We're almost there. Is there audio now? Are we good? Are we chilling? Hello, everybody, and welcome to my live reaction to One Piece manga chapter 1136. Apologies for the lack of audio earlier. I don't know what was going on. My computer said, look, you've been streaming for too long. We don't want you to do this live stream. But you know what? I have to do this live stream. It's Sunday morning. It's 8 a.m. Of course, I'm going to do a live reaction to One Piece. So with that being said, we are about to read One Piece manga chapter 1136 for the very first time. Let's get right into this. I'm very excited. Like I said during the portion where I was muted, nobody said anything about this chapter, so I'm going in blind. We're going to be having a lot of fun today. We're going to be reading some theories. We're going to be talking about One Piece. Also, the other thing that I want to bring up right at the very beginning of my reaction today is you'll notice that we are back in the widescreen horizontal format. I mentioned that I was bringing this back during my big channel update right when I came back at the beginning of the year. Some of you might not have seen that video. I highly recommend you guys watch that video. Obi, what's up, buddy? You want to be on the stream? Come here. Come sit with me. Come here. Come here. Come here. I heard you barking earlier. He said, look, I wasn't on most of the 24-hour stream, but I'll come on your One Piece stream today. Hello, buddy. Just wanted to be held. All right, with that being said, we are going to read One Piece manga chapter 1136 for the very first time. This one is called The Land That Awaits the Sun. And the very opening says Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest Surrogate Pilgrimage, Volume 22, Mysterious Base, Deep Inside Udon. So, okay, at least we're getting somewhere with this. We've got Yamato and Hold'em and Tama and Speed. Speed is back up to speed. You got Komaichi, Komainu, whatever that thing's name is, over on the left. And Hold'em, looks like they wrapped up Hold'em or something. So, there you go. So now you don't want to sit up with me. You want to sit down? Here you go. Want me to sit down and give you a treat? Here you go. Come here. There you go. Give me 1 sec, you guys. I just don't want Obi jumping on me during this. Give me 1 sec. Yep, that's literally all he wanted. That's all he wanted. He wanted a treat. Okay, let's do this. One Piece 1136, The Land That Awaits the Sun. And again, apologies for my voice being a little scratchy, but you got to remember, I've been live for 24 hours at this point. All right, here we go. Also, that does look like Who's Base a little bit. Now that I'm looking at the top of that again. See, I'm so used with these Yamato cover stories. I'm so used to just being like, all right, there it is. Let's keep going. And obviously, that's there. That's what that's setting up. It's setting up something with Who's Who. But until we get something, look, we're 22 volumes into this cover story. And it hasn't really gone anywhere since. We got to end this. The way I've been talking, they got to end this. We got to end this with Pluton. We got to end this with Yamato finding Pluton in Old Wano country. Because now this thing is 22 volumes in with this cover story. And we've barely done anything. You look at some of these other cover stories, 22 volumes in, we're near the end. All right. Anyway, let's go. One Piece 1136. So we're starting things off with Luffy going, it's so good. The moose tastes like dinosaur. Picking up right where we left off with Jarl entering the banquet with the sword in his head and everything. All right, here we go. I'd risk any danger for the man who saved my life. And Jarl said, I'm surprised you got one. Moose is delicious, but beasts are very, very fierce. And you got Luffy up there eating the moose saying, thanks a bunch, Haruden and Stanson. Ga, ga, ga. I'm just glad you like it. And you got all the other giants there. I love that giant plate of meat. You could see the little bones sticking out of it and everything. And also, who is that character? Who is the giant, like, with the little stripes on her pants? I'm looking at the scaling of everything with the other giants compared to Jarl, and I see Colin down there as well. So I'm like, who is that person? I thought it was Nami at first, but it is clearly not. Also, one thing I will say, with Elbaf in general, I feel like, and this is understandable considering the fact that Elbaf obviously is with all these giant characters, I do feel like scaling is somewhat off with the giants throughout the course of Elbaf so far. I feel like, obviously, Jarl has always been big, but I do feel, and not necessarily like in this scene, but like in the Saul scene, for example, where Robin reunites with Saul, where he's on the beach, he looks 3 different sizes. And I know some of it is like perspective, but some of it is like, certain characters look too big or too small. Anyway, let's continue. It is a minor gripe. It really doesn't matter all that much. Sizing usually is pretty inconsistent, so it's okay. All right. It's not, how many times did he change the size of Zunisha? All right, anyway. It's not often that humans come up here to the Sun World. Usually they don't know how to get here, so they assume the underworld is Elbaf and end up fleeing, and you can see Jarl talking about all that while he's chomping down on the moose. This is also interesting too. Again, it's called the Sun World. Really, but Horus was a vicious warrior whose story has been passed down through our history. Horus, okay. That's right. He was 3 times the size of any of you, and the man who finished him off, and you got Usopp telling the story, was me. Captain Usopp already telling his stories at the very beginning. Other people looking at Jinbei being like, whoa, your skin is really blue. Look, we got 2 racists in this chapter. We got who's who, and then we've got this other giant over here talking about Jinbei's blue skin. Not good. I don't think it's a coincidence that gets brought up right when who's who is seen in the Yamato cover story. But all right. Folks are even more colorful at Fishman Island, like all the fish in the sea. Meanwhile, all the other giants are like, I want to see a mermaid one day. They're beautiful, gentlemen. The mermaid inlet is like heaven on earth. And Sanji's pointing all the way around at the other mermaids. Whoa. But I feel like I'm ascending to heaven just being in the presence of so many giant angels. And you get the giant ladies picking him up going, oh, Sanji, you're so cute. And that's all he is. He's cute. Sanji, look at that. I know Ripley apparently had a baby with the regular human or something, and that's why Colin is the way he is, but still, Sanji, you got a lot of other characters waiting for you. You got Viola waiting for you, man. Like, what are you doing? All right. Woohoo! I'm drowning in beautiful women. And you can see the hearts popping out of Sanji's head. Okay. And meanwhile, so they went to Jinbei asking about his blue skin. They go to Sanji. Usopp's over there lying his head off. And then meanwhile, now they go over to Brook, and they're like, okay, but what are you then? Me? Why, I've got the What Am I Blues, baby, yeah! And Brook's playing a song, a toast to the wonders of the vast world. And meanwhile, Nami and Zoro, as like the parents of the group, are over on the side saying, I'm honestly kind of surprised at how many giants haven't ever gone to sea, right? I thought all the giants on Elbaf were pirates. And then meanwhile, Road, still beaten up, having been crucified, standing right there, looking down at Nami. You see the little zoop sound effect and bam, right there, looking down and admiring Nami, going, ultra rare Nami, ultra rare straw hats, forgive me for my earlier discretion. No forgiveness for you. Make sure you apologize. This is awakening something in me. Punish me, Gerd. Hello? What is going on with all this? And meanwhile, Zoro's forgiving him, going, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it, man. Nobody died. But only because Usopp stopped us from fighting back. If not for that, your head would have left your shoulders. And I can almost hear when I'm looking over at this panel of Zoro, I can almost hear, da-na-na-na-na-na, da-da-da, boom, cutting his head off. So obviously that's shaking Road a little bit. He's getting a little scared, slamming down onto the ground. And the rest of them are laughing at him. Da ha ha ha. Yeah. Look at Rodo. Don't you know what about their bounties? Wait, excuse me, what? Don't you know what their bounties are? Oh, excuse me, okay. You don't stand a chance against them. And you see Road shaking in his boots, the little exclamation point in the bottom. And Gerd leaning down, the pretend otaku over here, the one that pretended like she wasn't interested in humans despite everything, saying, oh yeah, I like playing with dolls and making doll clothes, but I'm not an otaku or anything. Gerd says the next time he tries something, you just go ahead and do that, Zoro. And then meanwhile, Rodo, I don't know what's going on over here. He goes, my Gerd, this is so stimulating. All right, you don't understand. That whole thing was a dream. That's held up by everybody born in Elbaf. We all wish to be the sun god and rule the world. Okay, where's that coming from? You were just simping over Gerd over here. What's happening? Now you're going into sun god lore? All right, Road. I also like that he's kind of like snapped back into reality. His eyes are open again despite the fact that he got beaten on the head. Rodo is definitely weird. Sun god. Okay. Oh, good stuff. I'm seeing page 7 on the other side as well with the silhouette of Nika in the sky. This is going to be good. Okay. Page 6 and page 7 is where we are right now in the official release on Shonen Jump. All right. So Zoro says, sun god, Don't be a fool. The sun god isn't a ruler. Yeah, he's the god of liberation. And the other one is going, no, he's a god of destruction. And the other one is saying, no, he's a god of laughter. So, interesting stuff here. They're brawling now. What is this about a god? Clearly, again, the god means different things to different people. Elbaf is home to an ancient religious text known as the Harley. Okay. Because it is so ancient, there are many interpretations of it. It continues to be passed down, even though no one can translate it anymore. Hence the confusion. According to the Harley, the world has been destroyed twice in the past. And in each case, the presence of Nika the sun god is closely tied to it. Okay, interesting stuff. So there's like a Bible for the giants with different translations where people believe Nika to be different things. Is he the hero who appeared to save the world from disaster? The destroyer who lays waste to it all? He appears when the world is about to undergo a great transformation. Therefore, the great and mighty of the day always feared Nika's arrival. Interesting. Okay. Again, great little hieroglyph / Looney Tunes version of Nika there. That's like the clearest we've ever seen the silhouette, where he's blacked out and you can see him doing the move, but instead there's a sword and a shield in his hand. Very nice. And meanwhile, Luffy, finally knowing more about who he really is and knowing the word Nika, says, wait a minute, Bonnie was talking about that guy. Well, because he is the god of the sun. It is those without hope who seek him the most. And obviously Bonnie was someone without hope for a very long time. And Kuma as well. Nika wears white clouds around him and appears with white hair, clothes, and jolly laughter. Who's that sound like? That must be why everyone said that I remind them of him. And now he's laughing. Nah. Also, what is this? Nah. Okay. But that has nothing to do with me. Come on. Don't ruin all the fun, Straw Hat. Everyone born in Elbaf, they're all drunk. I'm like, what's going on with the text? That is actually a funny little touch by Oda and by the translation team. You got Haruden falling over, saying, everyone born in Elbaf, and the other guy holding him up. Idealish and Nika growing up, and the other guy's falling down drunk instead of saying idolized, idealish. Though I won't defend whatever that moron Rodo was doing. And then, even Loki and the late Herald, in a sense, are the result of attempting to be Nika. Perhaps. Meanwhile, you got the other giant saying, you don't have to rationalize Loki's actions that way, Chief Jarl. Loki. Is Loki a good guy? And he looks up immediately because Luffy's like, wait a minute, I could maybe get out of all of this. I met Loki. And they go, absolutely not. Putting that down immediately. You got all the other new giant pirates and then also this like old lady pirate giant right in the middle as well. The old lady with the giant cane. Okay. Loki is the accursed prince. Even before Loki's birth, King Harold prophesied that he would be killed by his own son. And then, shortly after he was born, he killed the royal family's lucky horse. That's not cool, Loki. The same year, Linlin killed Chief Yorl, the legendary warrior. Okay. Connecting the dots with the Big Mom flashback as well. Very, very good. The country was beset by natural disasters, and the queen passed just a year after giving birth to Loki. So the queen died, the horse died, Linlin killed Yorl. He made the underworld his playground, using his innate strength. And you could see what appears to sort of be like the original version of Loki in silhouette with the horns and also the little hands, to kill and control the vicious animals down there and then unleash them on the village at just 10 years old. Interesting. So that's impressive though. If you're a 10-year-old and you go to the underworld of Elbaf and you tame all the giant beasts and you make them do your bidding. It says arson, devastation. Loki's many pranks threatened our lives. And now you can see Loki as he's like a teenager. He's a little older now in this other silhouette. Between his status as a prince and his cruel personality, he made our lives hell whenever King Harold was away. And then, worst of all, and you can see Luffy and Usopp looking up at the giants and Jinbei and innately listen to this story while he's, drinking his coffee over there. Loki then killed Harold, the greatest king in Elbaf history, right in his own castle up there. The kind and radiant king who tried to connect Elbaf with the other countries of the world that were terrified of our warlike ways. Chief Jarl was there, and he tried to stop Loki, and that is when he got stabbed in the head. And meanwhile, Jarl is saying, the helmet saved my life. But all the rest of them are like, the helmet didn't even do anything. It still went all the way through. It was about 6 years ago, I believe, that Red Hair caught Loki rampaging at sea for us 6 years ago. Okay, again, great lore. We're finding out more about what happened back then. This is very good. Luffy's getting excited. He's like, Shanks did that. What the heck? I heard that Shanks is here. Well, he was around a little while ago. I don't know where he went, though. Meanwhile, Zoro, staying quiet with a ... listening to this conversation. What exactly is happening here? What kind of ideas are you getting, Zoro? You're saying you're going to behead Rodo. Now, what is all this? Outskirts of town. Okay. I thought it was weird how fidgety you were, but this would explain it. That guy killed the king. The whole country hates him. Obviously, everything he told you was a lie. And Luffy's going back to Zoro, saying, but he said he knows where Shanks is. Do you have any idea how much I want to see him? I also love that Luffy trusted Zoro to tell him about Loki. I love it. That is the role of the first mate. I love this. Luffy trusts him. Beautiful. So, all right. Yeah, you talk about it all the time. It's a way for him to take advantage of you. So Zoro's again trying to say, look, this is why Loki said that thing about Shanks. It's because he knows that you love Shanks and you idolize Shanks. That's why he said it. And Luffy's just yelling back at Zoro like, you think Loki doesn't even know him? Well, I'm just basing it on his reputation. I mean, I didn't see the guy. And you get a little ... I'll tell you everything I know, including where Red Hair is now. If he's lying, I'm not letting it go. I will beat him up instead. Okay. Oh, and Nami. Okay, so Nami's finding out the truth now, too. Really good shot of Nami there, too, on the top of page 12, saying, I wondered why you two were sneaking around. Have you guys ever gotten to your destination without me? Listen up, Luffy. Wait. What? Zoro? Listen up, Luffy. I'll get the keys to his cuffs. But we're going to decide if he's telling the truth or not. Zoro! They've been telling all these stories about he destroyed everybody, and Zoro is getting bloodthirsty because he couldn't kill Rodo, and now he wants to free Loki? Zoro does? Level-headed Zoro? And they're bringing Nami and Luffy with... I'll get the keys to his cuffs, but we're going to decide if he's telling the truth or not. And Rodo is doing this to redeem himself to the Straw Hats, taking them there. Got it, thanks. So why is he here anyway? And meanwhile, Nami's like, well, Rodo is my servant now. And he is going, it's an honor. But I'm servant number 1, and Sanji is servant number 2. You got that? Zeus. I love Zeus. Zeus is popping. He's like, look, I'm the number 1 henchman of Nami. You're not the number 1 henchman. And even then, Sanji's above you. He's one of the Straw Hats. So you shut up, Rodo. Foo. What a stimulating torture method. Did you zap him yet? Going over to... This is a really good chapter so far. I love this. You know, I think we share a lot in common. Both being navigators, after all. And yet Rodo saying this to Nami. Never tries to close the distance between us ever again. And meanwhile, Rodo's going, no, of course not. It's all good. Being a glutton for punishment. All right. Meanwhile, Nami's saying, I feel bad that we're taking the star of the show away. And meanwhile, Luffy's going, hee, I brought some meat. Did you try any of this moose yet, by the way? And Rodo responds back, they're all properly hammered now. They won't even remember what the feast is for. Don't worry about it. It's such a shame that the treasure in the castle will be disappearing. What do you think, Rodo? And Rodo, no way, bro. So Nami's saying, it's a shame that the treasure in the castle is going to be gone, right? And Roto's like, yeah, my eyesight is poor. I doubt I'd even be able to tell if it was gone. I don't know what's happening. And they're all like, okay, so that's why you're here, Nami. And she's looking around like, your eyes. And you can see the berries in her eyes. Dog. So that's what this is about. So everyone else is still having a good time over at the village pub. And Nami and Zoro and Luffy are going to go get the keys for Loki. And Roto's going to look the other way while she robs the castle blind. All right. Not the way I thought this was going, but I got to say I kind of love it. And I see someone in the chat saying the servant trio instead of the monster trio. The servant trio of Zeus and Roto and Sanji. I'm sure somebody's going to make fan out of that eventually. All right. Now let's continue. The underworld. Dolga. All right. I take your point. And in that case, I refuse. You think I'm going to spend the one life I have stooping to the level of trash? So you got Loki and the God Knights there. Okay. Loki's still chained up to the tree. They haven't freed him or anything. So he goes, gee, thanks for the invitation to the most noble knighthood in the world. But what are you then? Celestial dragons? And you got Stabs over here saying, where's the intel from? The ancients dispatched to Elbaf sent one last transmission, that a giant crow had appeared. And nothing since then. We don't have any dirt on him. Okay, this is good. A giant crow had appeared. Could that potentially be our guy in the Revolutionary Army? Are things actually moving? What's happening here? This is exciting stuff. Or could it be one of Odin's crows? I played God of War. Could it be that as well? This could be a lot of things. I'm liking this. This is good. Good setup right here. I do think it's wild, though, that they invited him to the God Knights. Loki's like, look, that's pretty good, but I refuse. All right, Gunko. So, okay, her name is Gunko. Holy Knight Gunko. Cool design as well. She's got like the little, it looks like almost like an impel down jailer outfit, but it's like a mini skirt. And then she's got the bandages or whatever, like wrapped around her other arm. Now that I hear him for myself, you know, Loki is supremely insolent. We should simply erase him. And you can see again, her arm unfurling. Don't get ahead of yourself, Gunko. Also, again, interesting to note here where they put the we should simply erase him bubble right over where you would have to normally see Shanks' scar. You're not seeing it. He's doing a good job covering it up. Okay? And meanwhile, you hear the grrr as you see this giant wolf walking on over to the Holy Knights. Gobble them up, wolf. And the wolf with his tongue sticking out, looking hungry and slobbering, is walking on over to Gunko. And Gunko looks up, ooh, with the arrow on her hand. I also see she's got the painted nails and everything going. Hey, you breathed on me. Wrapping up the wolf. You can see the bandages swooping around. She does this little with her finger. You see the bandages wrapping around his head again. The wolf is barking. He's like, what? Meanwhile, Loki's like, wait, what's going on, wolf? Wrapping the wolf all the way up and then stabbing him through the head with the extra arrow at the end. What in the world? And the poor wolf is going, and she's putting her finger up to the sky, Gurren Lagann style. It doesn't even look like these are bandages now that I'm looking. It's almost like they're arrows. Does she have the clickbait fruit? What is this? Shooting arrows? Or is it, this is interesting. Can she turn stuff into arrows? Or I like her power, whatever it is. It's a cool power. She has a cool pose there. Meanwhile, Loki's going, wolf! And you can see the wolf is now mid-air with the arrow sticking right out of him. Wow, okay, so Loki obviously cares for the wolf then. And Stab says, if we offered to spare its life, would that change your mind? And Loki says, you're offering me a deal? Well, in that case, your fate is sealed, my friend. Die and be at peace. Yes, I'll be sad, as well as angry, but a warrior doesn't quibble and whine about his way of death. Meanwhile, the God Knights are just staying silent while Loki is cursing them. Instead, I'll feed on this rage and use it to bring ruin to the world. Doom! Loki, speaking his mind, looking down, angry as can be, about the death of his friend the wolf, and now hell-bent on destroying the world itself. Fantastic end of the chapter. One Piece, 1136, end. Good stuff, man. Good chapter. Wow. There is a lot of stuff here. First and foremost, the thing I'll say about this chapter is I feel like they did a really good job of doing a lore dump and giving lots of exposition in the middle of like normal dialogue. Like they're at the middle of the party in the very beginning of the chapter and they're talking about the different beliefs and the way that people believe in Nika, that there's different translations of the text, right? That in one translation, Nika's actually this really like joyous guy. In the other translation, he's like a god of destruction. And obviously we know, unless he was lying, we know that Loki, we know that Loki is apparently the holder of the ancient devil fruit that was in King Harold's possession, the sun god fruit. And Loki calls himself the sun god. So my immediate first thought upon hearing the thing about different translations of the text and knowing that devil fruits come from different people's beliefs and different people's dreams, like the stuff that we found out in Egghead, the first thing I'm thinking, I know we speculated that maybe Loki had like a literal sun fruit, right? That potentially had like the power of the sun. What if Loki actually does indeed have another version of the Hito no Mi model Nika, but his version is based on like the god of destruction version of Nika from one of the other translations, right? Because I think that could be a thing. Like there could be potentially two different versions if the power set and the beliefs are different and the dreams are different that create that fruit. I really love that. I just think I expected Elbaf. I said this way back when I did my charting the course to the end of One Piece stream around the time of C2E2 last year. I mentioned that I really did think that Elbaf, a lot of the conflict was going to come from the difference in the belief system. And, you know, even what Saul said way back when to Robin about not all the giants believe in the same thing and have the same morals. I did really think that religion was going to play a part in it, but I really did assume that it would be like a moon god or something and not necessarily a different version of the sun god. But ultimately, this plays out kind of the same way that I was expecting, with there being like an evil god that Loki worships. And we assume he worships the destruction version, not the good version, right? Based on everything that we've seen and based on the ending of this chapter, right? We're assuming that he worships that version, that translation. And then there's obviously people who worship and idolize Luffy's version, the happy Nika version. Again, I think this is very interesting. Story-wise, this makes for a really good natural kind of conflict within Elbaf and even with the other characters that are here, right? I think the idea of the God Knights, right? These characters who work for people who consider themselves gods and, you know, otherworldly beings, these celestial dragons, and the people that are on the top of the world, they're coming and offering a plea deal with Loki to join the God Knights, and Loki refuses them. And like what that means in terms of what he believes to be true about his God and why the God Knights do what they do, or the Holy Knights do what they do, whatever you want to call them. And then Jarl and his explanation of things. And then also, not even just the stuff with like the different belief system. I really appreciated all the stuff with timing and how everything happened the way that it happened, right? Them clarifying that when Loki was born, he apparently killed the lucky horse of the royal family. Then his mother died after, like a year after giving birth to him. Then Linlin, like within the year of him doing that and killing the horse, Linlin kills Jarl. And so in the brains of the giants, they're like, look, Loki is bringing upon destruction. Look at all the things that happened. My assumption, based on the way everything's being set up and sort of the way that Zoro was being used as the person questioning everything, which I found very interesting. You know, Zoro listening to what people are saying about him and actually telling Luffy and asking Luffy, do you believe what Loki was telling you? And, you know, he could be lying, having that whole discussion there. I just find this whole thing to be very fascinating. And I do think this whole little bit towards like page 4 or 5 of the chapter, when they're finding out the truth about what Loki did back in the past, I am wondering if maybe the legend developed out of what actually happened, right? Like Loki actually didn't kill the horse, that maybe the horse was an accident. That Loki just liked animals, right? He was a 10-year-old that loves animals and went down to the underworld and tamed all of them. And then the animals couldn't be tamed, and they like left destruction upon the rest of Elbaf. And obviously Loki, believing in the god of destruction, doesn't necessarily think that's a bad thing because that's his belief. He's been taught through the text of Elbaf in a different translation that was what the sun god did, that he brought about destruction. So what Loki might have thought he was doing might have actually been a good thing. And that Harold might have believed a different thing as well. And then the stuff with his mom, like I doubt that Loki killed his mother on purpose, right? It could have just been that she died of complications of childbirth a year after. Probably had nothing to do with him. And then Linlin obviously showing up. Linlin has nothing to do with this. Linlin later on, we found out, right, in adulthood, tried to marry off one of her daughters to Loki. But Linlin, as a child, as far as we know, did not meet Loki, right? She was unaware of the stuff that was going on with Loki based on what we saw in Linlin's flashback back during Whole Cake Island. So again, it could all be completely misunderstood circumstances. And Loki essentially like became what, like he naturally morphed into what he believed would be the right thing, which would be his version of Loki, but that he didn't do a lot of that stuff early on purpose. And that like in a way, he's potentially being falsely accused or being set up. That like someone else maybe killed the king, or even someone else took the devil fruit. I'm very curious. And then even the stuff with the crow that was set up was also interesting, because on one hand, obviously, we know the dude with the soot fruit. And I want to go back to read this exact line. It says here, the agents dispatched to Elbaf sent one last transmission that a giant crow had appeared. Nothing else since then. That could mean a whole range of things, right? On one hand, the giant crow appearing could actually be the guy with the soot power that makes the giant crows, that has the giant murder of crows. Because that would make sense that the revolutionaries would already be here if they've already said they have to mobilize if the God Knights are mobilizing. And we already have God Knights here. And wherever the God Knights are, obviously, they're going to want to take down the God Knights. This is their opportunity. Dragon straight up said that after the transmission in Egghead. So the crow could very well be the revolutionaries. But on the other hand, knowing the lore in Norse mythology and having played God of War, right? Odin has his crow messengers. So who's to say that giant crow doesn't have some type of relation to Odin? Not Odin, right? Not Odin like from Wano country, but Odin, like the Norse god Odin. Could be interesting. Or something else that was brought up as well is that crow could be Roto's crow that we saw earlier on. People are saying it could be Roto's crow. Exactly. Roto's got the giant animals. But if that's the case, if it is Roto's crow, as you're saying over here, the giant crow had appeared, nothing since then. The agents dispatched to Elbaf sent one last transmission. What did Roto do? Did Roto actually, with the strength that he has, based on everything that we've seen so far, what do you actually think that Roto could have been capable of stopping Holy Knight agents by himself and trapping those agents in his little Lego world that we saw in the beginning? Because if that's the case, we might be sleeping on Roto. If that was Roto's pet crow from early on, and Roto actually managed to dispatch these agents himself, that is hype. That is actually incredibly hype. I love that. And now Roto is clear. I mean, Roto's always been on our side, right? Roto's literally always been on our side the entire time. Even when he kidnapped the Straw Hats at the beginning of the arc, he did it because he's an otaku for the Straw Hats. So he's obviously going to do what they say, even more so now after this chapter, with Nami basically saying, you're my servant now. And I love even that little interaction with Roto that we got with Roto and Zeus and Nami, and the way they all play off each other. And Roto trying to make good with Nami, saying, hey, I'm a navigator too of the new giant pirates. Like, we could work together. And Nami's like, don't ever compare yourself to me ever again, you scum. And he's like, aye, aye, Captain. Meanwhile, you get that conversation between Zeus saying, look, don't even think you're one of her servants. I'm number one, Sanji's number two. Humor was great. Usopp telling the lies. All the people curious about Jinbei. I just feel like this chapter was really, really good. Not only was it a fun read, not only did it give us good information and set up good potential mysteries and center around Loki, which I think, honestly, we needed a good Loki-centered chapter based on everything that's already happened. I feel like we needed a good one that was focused on him. I just feel like on top of all of that, we got, excuse me, I need some water. 24-hour stream's catching up to me. On top of all that, we got the full design of Gunko, who I gotta say looks even cooler than I thought she looked when we first saw her. Also, I find it interesting, if you look at Gunko's design, I mentioned like what looks to be a jailer type outfit that she's wearing. Gunko also has one of the same type of hats that Koala had. Koala has the same type of hat within the Revolutionary Army. So I am wondering, especially knowing the stuff with the crows and the things that they're setting up and what could actually be happening here, and knowing the revolutionaries are against the God Knights, could it potentially be that Gunko was previously within the Revolutionary Army and then maybe defected to the God Knights? That would be interesting too. And what is going on with her devil fruit power, right? On one hand, the way we were talking about it before in the previous chapter where we saw them attacking, the guards at the castle, I thought it was some type of bandage power, right? I thought it was some type of like bandage power that she was wrapping around them. But now that I'm seeing this, she's got the bandages on her hands and on her legs, but I don't necessarily think it is a bandage power because it's very clearly an arrow. Now, on one hand, remember when we saw Emu for the first time, Emu attacked with the giant arrow. So could these have been powers gifted to Gunko by Emu, the same way that Emu gifted the powers to the Gorosei, those weird like devil powers with the pentagrams, because we do see them arrive here in Elbaf with the giant pentagram on the ground of the castle. So are these Emu powers that we're seeing here from Gunko, that were gifted to Gunko, transforming her bandages into something else? Or does Gunko have like some type of arrow fruit that can transform things into arrows and do damage? Or, which is even more interesting potentially, and this is like wild 1% chance theory, but I just want to bring it up here. Could somehow, some way, with the two eyes of Gunko, where she's got the one eye that's got the ring around it and the one eye that's like this, could Gunko in some way maybe be possessed by Emu? Could there be something where like Emu is able to possess, because again, if Emu, some of us assume Emu's got the devil fruit, right? My assumption could be Emu could possess people if he was the devil. And if that's the case, are we looking at like the first showcase in clear view outside of the Gorosei of Emu's power? Because I kind of think that's what this is. I think this might not be a devil fruit power at all. I actually think legitimately this could be a power bestowed on Gunko and maybe the Holy Knights. Maybe the other Holy Knights can get powers like this. I think this is a power bestowed on Gunko by Emu himself. And that there is something weird going on with the two eyes. And that should maybe be our hint that Emu's in there somewhere. Not that Emu is Gunko, but that Emu is the one bestowing these powers. I find it very fascinating. I find all of this stuff very, very interesting. And again, the ending of this chapter, them killing the wolf and telling Loki, should we spare its life? And Loki saying, warriors die when they die. It is what it is. His fate is sealed. But know that I'm going to use this opportunity to feed on this rage and use it to bring the world to ruin. I thought was a great ending to the chapter. Overall, this is a 10 out of 10. This is great. This is a great chapter to come back with in Elbaf, getting some confrontation. Not only the joke stuff during the laughing portion in the tavern, not only the introduction of the stuff with Gunko, but also seeing the core group together again, seeing Zoro and Nami and Luffy together, the original three going on this mission to Elbaf Castle, Nami going back to her old ways of being a treasure hunter, Rodo saying he's going to look the other way. I think this is a really good, solid chapter of One Piece. This is honestly the kind of chapter that I expect from One Piece, right? Not every chapter of One Piece that's really good has to necessarily have characters bouncing off the walls and having major action or having some like enormous reveal to the story. You can do reveals that are maybe not necessarily megaton reveals, but that flesh out the world as a whole and make things more interesting and setting up really good exposition for the arc that's to come. And still be a really solid chapter, even if it's mostly exposition focused. I love this one. I think this is a really, really good chapter to come into the year with. I'm going to pretend this was actually the first chapter of the year. Because obviously the first chapter of the year leaked out way back at the end of last year. I wasn't back in my regular setup. I was out of town. So I'm saying this is the official start of the year. This is a really, 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 really good chapter. I love this one. Wow. With that being said, we got to see James's thumbnail. I got to read out these super chat theories. I got to read out my Nakama questions. We're going to do all that live on stream right now. So with all that being said, let me pull this up. Let me minimize this. Let me pull up James's thumbnail and let's see what James did for, ooh, chat, look at this. Look at this. I love this. Like from the perspective of the wolf looking down at Gunko. Gunko shooting out the bandages. This is awesome. Also, color scheme wise, man, James really killed it this week. This looks like something out of Persona. This is a very different kind of style than what he normally does. Last week, the way he did it where everything was shaded and it had the little, we had like the weird little bubbles that were coming out of the ground. People thought it was dirt on my laptop. And I was like, no, that's just the cool way that he did it. I love that he makes like the really harsh lines this week, the cool, ultra saturated colors. I love too the reflection in her eyes that almost makes it look like it's the blood dripping from the wolf. The red in the background, great stuff here. I also really like that he went with blue hair for Gunko. The vibes on this one really are impeccable though. Again, it's giving me like Persona a little bit, which is not what I would have expected out of this thumbnail. And honestly, I gotta say I'm proud of James because James had a thumbnail this week that I honestly thought he was gonna do. I thought that he was gonna do that Nami section. Literally when I read that little Nami bit with Roto and knowing how much James loves Nami and you get that clear shot of her, I thought, oh, of course he's gonna draw Nami. But he's like, no, the Gunko stuff was good. I wanna see what she's up to and I love this. Again, I really like the color scheme he went with. I also like that he went with like, almost like a brown for her cloak instead of just being pure black. Very cool. Also seeing someone in the chat saying it's very World Ends With You-esque. Very, very nice. Good work, James. Very, very good. And also people are saying, did he draw pants? No, it looks like she still got the mini skirt, but he was smart because he knew that things would get not copyright stricken, but he knew that things would get demonetized if he just drew the skirt with the little bottom part on the bottom. So instead, he did it with like her leg bent out with the arrows. It's a really dynamic pose. Great work on the hand as well. Overall, well done, James. James, at this point, you know you never miss James. And also, I want to take this opportunity. I said it during the 24-hour stream because it was actually the day of during the 24-hour stream. But I also want to give a special shout out to James because it was just James's birthday the other day. His birthday was on Friday. So if everyone in the chat could please drop birthday emoji and say happy birthday, James. I know he would appreciate it and I know I would appreciate it because James does fantastic work every single week whenever we have these chapters. And James has also been doing fantastic work on the side for older chapters that I am now relisting as time goes on. He did an amazing thumbnail with Kinemon for one of the previous Wano chapters a little while ago. He did another amazing thumbnail with Vivi at the time of the Reverie. James has been absolutely, positively killing it. He's doing a great job. Everyone give a shout out to James. Everyone say happy birthday to James. Well done, James. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Rest of the chat going, happy birthday, James. Happy birthday. Fantastic. That is what I like to see. Great. Thank you guys for showing up and giving love to my thumbnail artist. Means a lot. And I know James thinks it means a lot too. So thank you very much, everybody. With that, let's get into some super chats. Let's get into some theories. Let's see what people are talking about. Let's see what people are cooking up this week. There seems to be quite a few. I see only one message about the chapter from my Nakama tier in the room over on the Discord, which actually surprises me. I thought for sure we would have more from the Nakama room. So what I'm going to do, instead of starting with the Nakama room on Discord, I'm going to end with the Nakama room, and I'm instead going to read the theories and messages from members and super chatters first. And then we're going to go back. So if you're a Nakama and you haven't already entered your question in the Manga Sunday room, go do that over on the Discord server. And in the meantime, I'm going to read out the super chats and theories that were coming in throughout the course of the stream. And there do seem to be quite a few of them this week. First thing comes from Naruto Toad Sage, re-upping his membership, 43 months, saying we need a Wind Waker style type Zelda game on the level of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, especially with an underworld that's flooded ruins of Hyrule of old. Sure. I don't know why that's brought up here, maybe because of the underworld stuff with One Piece, but sure, Naruto Toad Sage, I'm down with that. You want to drop Zelda questions and Zelda theories during One Piece stream? Go right ahead. Thank you very much again for re-upping your membership, Naruto Toad Sage. Excuse me. Let me get some water too. Again, man, this is a good chapter. I really just can't get over. This is a really, really solid one. I was not expecting this. Maybe it's just because too, One Piece has been on break pretty consistently over the course of the past like 2 months. Obviously we had that massive growth spurt when we had that big month-long break, and then it's been going on break pretty much every other week since. And I feel like it's been good. I know some people have been like, oh, I feel like I'm starved of One Piece. I almost feel like this has been better for me. I almost feel like this is good because it's like reigniting my interest. It's making me like even more excited to read what's happening next. People have been very considerate with spoilers. I've been having a good time. It's making me like, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? That's what people always say. That's how I'm feeling about One Piece right now. It's great. All right. Ace2532 donated. First super chat saying, I think the crow she's referring to is the one that Roto used to kidnap the crew, which makes the other people in the diorama cipher pull agents. Which again, very interesting to have that be a setup with Roto, because again, Roto, I guess he is a new giant pirate, and the giants are shown to be very powerful characters, but at the same time, like I don't know, Roto, from everything that we've seen, I would not have expected him to be one to be able to take out like actual high-ranking cipher pull agents or even other members of the Holy Knights. That's pretty cool. And I want to see more of them, and I do think we probably will see more of them whenever that Lego castle gets breached or those characters end up coming back at the end, and it's all hands on deck for a war in Elbaf. So very cool stuff there. Nighthawk came through with a super chat saying, do you think Stabs had to get permission from the Gorosei for Loki to join the God Knights? I mean, after all, that could have been the pirate that he wanted to talk about. Ooh. Interesting. So you think it wasn't actually Shanks in the throne room talking to the Gorosei that first time around about Blackbeard or Luffy. It was actually Stabs talking about Loki, and that he was getting permission. That's actually cool. That's really, really cool. I love that theory. That's an awesome one. I'm going to give that one a like. That is actually very cool. Huh. Also, Jeskinator said, can someone tell me why he's called Stabs now? It's just an easy way to differentiate him from Shanks. Instead of saying clone Shanks, twin Shanks, whatever, so people know that we're referring to Shanks's evil twin or whatever that thing is going to end up being. For the time being, we're just calling him Stabs until we get an official name. Hopefully, Oda, is able to give out some type of information and give us the name of that character. But in the meantime, he hasn't done that quite yet. All right, so let's do this. Dan came through with the super chat and say, why do I feel like we are eventually going to find out that Loki didn't really kill Harold? There's simply no evidence for it, and I have a sneaking suspicion. Dan sort of reiterating what I said earlier during my review portion, mentioning that whole thing that maybe it could have been an accident, right? That Loki, basically the misfortune of what was happening to Elbaf at the time was put on him because of their beliefs and because of what they wanted to see. So yeah, great super chat, Dan. I completely agree. It definitely could have been a misunderstanding. Degeneric came through and said, is Luffy going to run into the God Knights? And do you think he's going to run into Shanks? I mean, yes, probably. I think the story potential there is huge for Luffy to see a character who he thinks is actually Shanks, and immediately Shanks, quote unquote, Stabs, does something different that then makes Luffy question everything and then question what Loki was saying. I think that would be great narratively to have that happen, yeah. So I do think at some point they're going to come face to face, yeah. Zero Arctivist came through with the donation saying, did you think the Biblio Devil Fruit could maybe affect Frankie, Kuma, and Lilith? Since most likely Kuma, Bonnie, and Lilith are staying in Elbaf, having the ability to become giants would be useful. Again, as it was brought up during the chapter when I was in Chicago in the beginning of the year, Biblio's Devil Fruit only works on inorganic material. We had this whole debate about whether or not, it would work on something that's a mineral, right? If it would work on gold. But no, on the berries, I think he can actually make things huge. I think we all decided that he can, in fact, make more money and make giant pieces of gold that the pirates could then sell to make more money. I think potentially he could work on parts of Frankie's body, but how would that work? Like you would just have like this giant arm of Frankie's, this giant portion of Frankie that's inorganic. That was, the cyborg parts of him. But then the other human parts of him stayed small. Like we're going to see a little human head of Frankie with this giant robot body. It would be terrifying looking. I do think that maybe it could work on Lilith, because Lilith is well, no, but what exactly is Lilith? She is like a robot type thing, human type thing. It's just weird. We don't fully exactly know what's going on with like the satellites of Vegapunk and what type of material they're made of. My answer is maybe to Lilith, partially to Frankie, and no to Bonnie, because Bonnie's obviously fully organic. Even as a clone, she's fully organic. So yeah, Bonnie for sure, which obviously she's not a clone. She's the child of Ginny and the nameless celestial dragon, who at the very least could be Stabs. We don't know. And they might have to come into contact at some point. But for the time being, no to Bonnie, maybe to Lilith, partially to Frankie. I think more likely than not, as I've thought about it more, I do think Biblio's powers are actually going to come into play during the end of the arc. Because technically, the Thousand Sunny could be inorganic, right? If, obviously, the Sunny potentially has a Klabautermann and has like a soul. And I don't know if that would negate the powers of Biblio's like giant fruit. But I do think it would be really cool if somehow, some way, like with some giant ship battle at the ending. Because I saw someone bringing up earlier, it wasn't in this stream, but it was in my 24-hour stream or something. Someone brought up earlier the idea that like the Straw Hats need to get another ship that's on the level of like the massive scale of the Moby Dick and some of the other major players within the story up to this point, right? With like Marineford, where Whitebeard rolled up and he had that massive ship at the ending. That people were saying that maybe the Straw Hats would need to get a bigger ship so they are like on that level moving into Final War. I actually think that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. I think if anything, Biblio's Devil Fruit, if we are to believe that the Thousand Sunny doesn't have a soul and it would work on it, right? You have to jump a few steps ahead to imagine this, but I think there's a potential of Biblio actually making the Thousand Sunny giant to match the other ships and to make it so that even more characters can come aboard moving into Final War, which I think would be genuinely cool. Like, imagine if Loki at the end of all of this is traveling with the Straw Hats to Final War to get his revenge against the world government for killing his pet wolf. That would be pretty fire if Biblio actually makes the ship giant so the other giants could come aboard. I think that'd be a pretty cool idea. So we went all over the place with that donation, mentioned Zorro, but ultimately I landed on no, maybe, partially to your question, and wanted to bring up my own theory of the ship potentially being massive by the end of the arc if Biblio uses the giant Devil Fruit powers on the Thousand Sunny. Would that negate the powers if the ship was in water? Or because the boat itself is inorganic? I don't know. It brings up a lot of questions, but either way, I think it'd be a cool idea. All right. Anyway, moving on. We got Artsy Wolf 15 saying a couple things I believe about Loki since this chapter. First off, Loki is the giant's scapegoat. And actually, Loki is a huge dork that simply has bad luck. So once again, back to the misunderstanding thing that we said. Yeah, again, being the scapegoat of the giants. I wouldn't say necessarily the scapegoat of the giants, but I do think the scapegoat of the problems that happened to the giants. Yeah. So he is the giant scapegoat in that sense, but he's not the scapegoat to whatever the giants were doing. I just want that to be clarified. King Leon came through with a donation saying, been following you since 2017, and I watch these streams weekly. 2024, life happened for the better, and I had to take time off One Piece and focus on myself. But now I'm settled, and I read 1113 all the way to the most recent chapter today, and I gotta say it feels good to be back. Welcome back, King Leon. We're happy to have you back. Nakama, happy to have you back. Shout out, once again, to a bunch of people who re-upped their memberships. We got I Ate Your Potato, Jeskinator, and Left Jab all coming through with re-upped memberships, Nakama, and a new membership from Eduardo Canseco, bringing our member count up to 775. We ended up jumping in members after that stream that happened, the big 24-hour stream, yesterday, which is crazy that that was yesterday. But yesterday, we ended up jumping up in members. We ended up hitting one of the first member goals, which was to play League for the first time. We ended up hitting the second member goal, which is to play Woowa for the first time. Now I got to come up with another member goal before the end of the month, because obviously we're going to be doing some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot of streams. We're probably going to get some more members. So I got to think of something else. I got to think of something to do at 800. Pretty awesome though. And there were so many gifted memberships on top of that too. Lots of people that were gifted. It was awesome. There were even a ton of people that gave like 50 gifted memberships, like 3 or 4 of them. It was incredible. The amount of love and support that people were showing during that stream was just incredible. It was so cool. Even BC is a member now. BC, who has been dodging memberships left and right. Really cool stuff here. I Ate Your Potatoes member message said, glad to catch your streams every Sunday. And I gotta say, I love the symbolism of the Nika sword and shield and Zoro and Sanji being Luffy's sword and shield. That's a very nice thing to say. Jessica Nader came through and said the informants could just as well be CP 1 through 8, which aren't necessarily as strong for what we know. And Roto did manage to capture a Yonko and his crew after all. That is true. That is true. He did drug Luffy and bring them on over with that special, like, what was the potion that he gave them or whatever, that he snuck into it? You're right. You're right. He did manage to capture them, so it wouldn't be a huge shock that he managed to capture Cypher Pole 1 through 8 agents. That's a good point. And Left Jab also came through and said, do you think that Whitebeard was talking about Shanks' brother or Shanks' dad in terms of the person who gave him the scar? I believe that he believes that it was Shanks, which means there is room for interpretation and that potentially it wasn't Shanks. But based on the level of respect that Whitebeard has for Shanks, I think it probably was Shanks. But we're going to have to wait and see. I think that would be a cool thing to bring up later in the story, though. It wasn't actually Shanks, it was his brother, or twin or clone or whatever that thing was. That would be cool. Hollow Avarice also donated and said, I totally think you're right about the religious overtones. I think the clash with Loki is going to represent the ideal of Nika as a god of destruction. I completely 100% agree. Thank you for bringing that up. Now, with that being said, I've read all the super chats. Let's get into some of these Nakama questions. This one comes from Clax, first and foremost, saying, post my question a bit early since I had it prepared. It's not related to this week's chapter, and I'm sorry for the long question this week, but I think it's a really good one. Again, reminder to people, if you're a member at the Nakama Tier It Up, you get access to the Manga Sunday room over on the Discord server, and when you get access to that room, you're able to ask the questions. So, here we go. Knowing what we know of Oda's likes and tastes, imagine a world in which he hasn't written Romance Dawn or One Piece. Assuming in that world he is still writing a serialized manga, what would it be about if not pirates? Would it take place in our world, or maybe an original world like One Piece's? Would it be a battle shonen, something more original, perhaps even a seinen with an even greater focus on politics? There's of course the easy answer that he would make monsters into a full work, but I'd love to see how much more creative you can get other than just he'd make monsters but grander. Or do you think One Piece was inevitable, one way or another? Oda would have written it, or at least a manga very similar to that. That's a really good question, actually, Clax. I think this is going to be an easy answer, but I think Oda's actually even said this in the past. The ideas of One Piece, right? The ideas for a character like Luffy, and for a character like Nami, and for a character like Mihawk even, those ideas predated Monster. Like, he had sketches for this kind of stuff way back before One Piece. So I think if he was going to make in a world in which One Piece was not made, and Oda made a different series instead, I still believe that series would be shonen. I still believe that series would in some way involve characters that would parallel, if we saw them, characters like Luffy and Shanks and Mihawk and Nami. And I don't necessarily know if that would be like in the world of Monsters. Like, I think Monsters was kind of meant to be its own one-off type of thing of like this vigilante samurai and the dragon and everything and old Wano. I don't necessarily think Monsters would have been fleshed out into like a full-on thing. I still think whatever he would have made would have been shonen. I'm trying to think of what else Oda really loves that maybe he would have like evolved into a full-on manga, like knowing his tastes. Obviously, he's always had a love of the sea. He's got the giant shark above his toilet that we've seen time and time again whenever people like do, views into like his pad or his work environment, his office. Maybe something with a train. Like, he has that giant train around his house. He has like the train miniature that people can ride on. Maybe something related to trains. I know Oda likes trains. He obviously implemented the trains with the Puffing Tom in the world of One Piece, but maybe like a shonen that takes place on a train with characters that seem like Luffy. I don't know. I do think the idea of like a battle shonen that happens on a train with a character like Luffy, but that still has this like grandiose story that parallels One Piece, is probably something along those lines. But ultimately, I feel like One Piece was kind of inevitable. I just feel like the themes of One Piece, the characters of One Piece, the character dynamics that he came up with for the characters of One Piece, they were all things that he had sort of had cooking in his mind. And I think, again, whether or not it was a pirate manga, at the end of the day, something related to these themes would have been the thing that he cranked out. So at the very least, I do think it would have been a shonen. I don't see a world in which Oda would have ever made a seinen. I would totally be down for Oda to like try his hand at a seinen, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. Yeah. Great question, by the way, Clax. Really good one. Stefan came through, said, Roger, love your reaction to the chapter this week. Now, I'm not necessarily good at theory crafting, but my prediction was that someone maybe from the world government tragically killed King Harold, and that maybe Loki took the blame for it to protect Elbaf. What do you think about that? Again, that goes right in line to the ideas that somehow it was like miscommunication or a misunderstanding, and that Loki is sort of the scapegoat for the giants, as it were, and has been taking the blame for everything. I mean, I totally think that's plausible. I also think that would then add to Loki's rage about wanting to take down the world government if we find out that like the Holy Knights or someone from the world government, maybe like Figureland or something, was actually the one to kill King Harold. Like that would add not just to like him being upset about his wolf dying, but like his father, or maybe even some of the other stuff that happened. I mean, in a weird way, the world government is even responsible for the stuff with Linlin, right? Like Linlin, during her flashback, was taken in by Mother Carmel. And Mother Carmel sowed in Big Mom all this destruction. And realistically, Mother Carmel was working with the world government, trafficking these kids to turn them into Marines. So in a weird way, the world government is even responsible for the creation of Linlin, right? That Linlin could have been a product of her own environment, right? Was raised with Mother Carmel and these other kids to be this monster for the purposes of war. So at the end of the day, world government could be responsible for that too. So I am not writing off the idea that King Harold was killed by one of the God Knights. Great thing to bring up. Absolutely. We got another Nakama question from the Nakama room. Thank you all once again for not only being a supporter of the channel at the Nakama tier and up, but also sending these great questions and great theories. We got one from Rob Harley, who said, I don't really have a question this week, but more that I just want to point out two interesting things that seem to be glossed over. Firstly, I find it interesting that Who's Who has stayed in Wano country. Again, bringing back the stuff with Yamato and the cover story, I do think that is weird. But could it be that Who's Who is in Wano country, or could it just be that it's Who's Who's base that's there? And that Yamato finds something in Who's Who's base related to Who's Who and isn't necessarily that character? I don't know. We'll find out. Secondly, Jarl said that the world has been destroyed twice. Was that potentially at the start and at the end of the Void Century? Or is there another time that he's referring to? After all, what's the possibility that the Harley is the same language that's on the poneglyphs and that Robin will be able to read it? Ooh, I love that idea. I love that. That's really good. Ooh. What's the possibility that the Harley is the same language as on the poneglyphs and that Robin can read it? Do we know what the ancient language is that's written on them? That is a really, really, really good idea and good point, Rob. I love, actually, the idea that Robin could somehow stop the Holy Divide and the differences in opinion of the giants by reading the original Harley that maybe is in the library. She's in the library right now with Saul and with the other characters. Maybe she reads the original text of what Nika actually was, and it's written in the language of the poneglyphs, and then she spreads it out to the rest of the world. I love that idea. That is great. That's, again, a great way to feed Robin naturally into the story, right? At the end of the day, Robin's dream is to create the Rio Poneglyph, to share the truth of the world with the rest of the world. Her literally reading the Bible of the giants in the ancient text completely feeds into that. I love that idea, Rob. And that's not even something that I really considered. That is something that sort of has been glossed over with this chapter. I didn't really mention the stuff with the Harley. I mean, I mentioned the religious divide in my review portion, but I didn't really mention the Harley itself. Totally love the idea that it's written in the ancient language. On the topic of the world being destroyed twice, and was it at the start and the end of the Void Century, my assumption is yes, right? That it would have been at the start and the end. That one would have been, yeah, I actually do think that probably is where that happened. But then if you think about that, like that's only a very short span of time in which this destruction would have happened, where you get the ancient kingdom sinking underneath the water, and then potentially another layer of destruction at the end of everything to create the world that we're in right now. Like the first one was to wipe out the Ancient Kingdom at the beginning of the Void Century. And the second was when we came back from it. I do like that idea. And both times Nika appeared exactly. Well, obviously one of them was Joy Boy, naturally. But the first one could have been the original Nika, right? Joy Boy isn't necessarily the original Nika. Joy Boy was doing other things. Interesting. Also love the idea that maybe the way that we've seen the Void Century could be skewed based on the idea that the world was destroyed twice. I like that. That's cool. Very cool. Flipdo came through with the super chat and said, such a great chapter this week. Now that you've read the chapter, I can send you the art that I spent the entire 24-hour stream doing without spoiling you. Let's see this. Flipdo, where did you put it? Flipdo, where'd you put the art? Is it in the Discord server? Is it in the One Piece room? Where'd you put it? I would love to see the art that you made during the 24-hour stream. Please let me know, Flipdo. While I'm looking for that, I also see a couple smaller super chats that I just want to shout out really quickly that people dropped throughout the course of the stream. Zoro Top 1 saying, I do think that the God Knights came from the castle when Harold died and that Loki was set up, agreeing with what we said earlier. That Roto's Lego World definitely has government agents in it. That one came from Andrew A. We have another one from Andrew A. saying that I think the Giants are going to have huge expectations for Usopp after everything that he said during the tavern. Agree with that. And finally, Football Candy came through and said, Roger, thoughts on post-apocalyptic theories now? Thoughts on post-apocalyptic theories now? I guess we kind of just addressed that with the whole thing with the previous, what's it called? My brain is like not working because, again, I'm not running on very much sleep after the 24-hour stream. But, you know, all the stuff we were just talking about with the Void Century and the previous times that the world was destroyed. Yeah, I mean, I think we just kind of answered it. I think Rob kind of answered it himself. So, also, Flipdo said, there it is. Let's see. Do you mind if I share this on stream? I'm going to share this on stream, Flipdo. Flipdo DM'd me what he was working on during the 24-hour stream. And it's an image of Beerus from Dragon Ball alongside Luffy. And it says, God of Destruction, Nika. And you've got Luffy with Beerus's collar, eating food with Beerus. That's actually pretty cute. So you were working on that during the 24-hour stream while we were having all the fun during the celebration yesterday. That's a great little image. That's a great image, Flipdo. You did a good job. Also, I genuinely, if I would have seen this, that wouldn't have spoiled anything to me. I would not have thought twice about this. I would have been like, oh, okay, he's talking about Luffy hanging out with Beerus, and so he's just calling him God of Destruction. I would not have taken that as like a spoiler for the chapter. So, yeah, very cool though. Great work. Also, by the way, Satwick said, you missed one last membership in the 24-hour stream at the end, just before you ended the stream. Did I? Well, I'll update the member count once the stream ends, and then I'll update it with whatever the current member count is behind the scenes. Because it could have also been that somebody, now that I have this all set up, it could have been that somebody like canceled the membership or like didn't re-up a membership or something from a gifted, and that's why it is. But it's at 775 right now, Satwick. So it's, if you're saying that it was a miscount, right on the screen right there, it says 775. So there you go. Leonard in the chat also says, Loki's laughter style is doga. That's animation in Japanese. So maybe he has the doga doga no mi, the tun fruit? And that maybe he knows the powers of Loki and that Loki could do these wacky, crazy things? Like, doga ga ga ga. That would be interesting. I don't hate that idea. Let me see some of these other messages in the chat that I might have missed before we wrap things up. We got MC20 saying, Roger, have you recovered from the epic 24-hour stream? Honestly, no. I feel like you could hear it in my voice. I'm like 80% right now, but I'm definitely still tired. My voice is still a little shot. I'm definitely not planning on doing anything else today. That's a big reason why I didn't co-stream this one on Twitch, because tomorrow I'll be live on Twitch before Japan time. We'll do a Japan time waiting room. I might do some of the stuff that I didn't do on the 24-hour stream. Maybe we'll play more Donkey Kong. Maybe I'll do some Marvel Rivals. You know, maybe I'll, I don't know. Maybe I'll play NSO with Zeph. I'll do something, but ultimately, I am still exhausted from the 24-hour stream. What happened? I went to sleep immediately after that stream ended. And then right after that stream ended, I went to sleep until about like 7:30 last night. And then at 7:30, I was woken up by Reagan making pizza. So we had pizza for dinner. She made a pizza in the oven. So we had pizza for dinner. So I woke up, ate pizza, and stayed awake for like 4 more hours, and then I went right back to bed. Reagan went to bed at like 11:30 or something. I went to bed at the same time, and then I set my alarm for this morning. We woke up bright and early at 7:30. I got ready, and then I turned on the live stream. So I'm not fully recovered, but today I'm taking a full break. I'm just relaxing. I think the only thing I'm going to do in terms of work today is I'm probably going to timestamp the 24-hour stream so that people, when they want to go back and watch it, can see all the different segments. I know one of my members said that they were going to do that. I forgot who it was. Apologies for me not knowing exactly who it was who's going to put those timestamps up. I'm sure I'm going to see in the members room on the Discord soon after this. But yeah, I'm going to implement the timestamps on the 24-hour stream, and then I'm just chilling. I'm chilling. I'm probably going to watch a movie or play a game or something on my own and just zen out, take Obi for his WALK, you know, enjoy the outdoors. Now that things are nice and clear by me, we have like the go-ahead with the green air quality. Fires have all dissipated. We don't have any smoke near me anymore, so I might go enjoy the outside. And that'll be that. Yeah, that'll be that. Sylvan said, are you planning on doing Boruto tomorrow? If there's a new chapter. Yeah, if there's a new chapter, I'll do Boruto tomorrow. I mean, we could do that in the morning. We could do Boruto during the actual Twitch stream when I'm going live before Japan time. We could do Boruto here on YouTube, cross-stream it, whatever, and then put that over on the VOD channel from the Twitch version. And then, because you guys already know this, like I've already said during my channel update video, that the Boruto videos, while they are going to stay members only on the main channel and be ad-free for people who are members, I'm also going to post those VODs to the VOD channel. So actually what I'll do probably is, I probably will do that. I probably will do Boruto at the beginning of my Twitch stream tomorrow, co-stream that for members here on YouTube, put that up, and then post the VOD, including the Boruto reaction, over on the VOD channel. That's a good thing. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. Mackenzie said, so you can't say walk around Obi, like I can't say treats around my cat. We also can't say the last word that you said around Obi as well, because he knows what that is. We have to spell things out. The problem is Obi is smart. And it's gotten to a point now where if we spell things out around him, he has now learned what that means too. And he goes, oh, wait a minute, I know. So we just got to be super careful. Dude, you did like multiple weeks worth of content during the 24-hour stream. I really did. Paul said, enjoy your Sunday. Thank you, Paul Gale. Appreciate that. Take a good break again. Yeah, I absolutely will. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be fun. Also, Rob brings up a good point that this past like 4 days has been insane when you think about it. Because I did a 10-hour long Honkai Star Rail stream for the new update. The next morning, I woke up at 7 a.m., and did the live reaction to the Switch 2 update, which obviously brought us a bunch of new subscribers. Everyone was all excited about that. I blew my voice out talking about that, talking with all my friends about it. Then I went to bed, started my 24-hour stream, stayed awake for like 26 hours realistically, because that's when I fell asleep, slept until the evening, ate, went back to bed, came back here, still not fully recovered because I'm not on my normal time schedule yet, did this stream at 8 a.m., gonna rest all day, and then tomorrow we're gonna do Boruto, and we're gonna do gaming streams, and I've got Japan time in the afternoon. And then Tuesday, I've got another stream set up. So it has been a really, really awesome first full week back after the holidays, and I'm looking to continue this trend. I've got a fun gaming video coming next Friday. I've got, obviously, the next One Piece chapter, hopefully. I didn't even look on the Manga Plus app or on Viz. What's going on with the new One Piece chapter? Are we getting a new one next week, or are we going on break again? It said, no, new chapter arrives Sunday. So I will be here again next Sunday with another One Piece chapter. Absolutely fantastic. Love to see that. We're not getting a break. That's great. Well, fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to chill and sleep. Thank you once again to everybody who came through to that stream. Greatly appreciate it. Also, for anyone who's interested, I probably will within the week announce the dates for when I'm going to do the Wuthering Waves stream and when I'm going to do the League of Legends stream. But I'm planning on doing those streams with other people, so I got to find out other people's schedules before I announce them. I do think they will both be before the end of the month, though. At the very latest, one of them might be early February, but both of them will be within the next couple weeks. So look forward to that content. You know, obviously, thanks again to everybody who came through to the stream. I'm going to go get some rest. I'm going to go have some breakfast. I'm going to go take Obi on his WALK. Thanks once again, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Nakama! Take